Everybody, welcome to another episode of Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and with Corey.
Hello, everyone.
We are a talk show and we are on terrestrial radio on 101.7 FM, broadcasting across the Fraser Valley every Tuesday from 7 to 8 Pacific time on CIVL, which is 101.7 FM, and they are broadcasting from the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation.
Yes, we are.
But we're also a podcast, and you can catch us on the major podcasting platforms, and you can catch all the back episodes on my website, drlesleyphillips.com. We pre-record the show in advance of it airing on the radio, which enables us to have a live chat room. And the live chat room is on the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group. And also you can tune into the live stream on my YouTube channel as well.
Dr. Lesley, you've got your computer cutting you off, like your picture
in Facebook.
Yep. But if you want to keep going, that's okay. That's better.
Good. So if you're on the radio, it doesn't matter to you. But if you're watching the live stream, we were just adjusting a camera. Well, at the moment, we are doing a podcast series. Every once in a while, we do a podcast series. We've done a series on meditation. We've done a series on intuition and chakras. And this series is a little bit different, but the general idea is it's really about my perspective on psychic development. So what do I believe about being psychic? Because if you're considering perhaps learning to be psychic with me, you might want to know that. At the same time, of course, you can think of it as a kind of a teaching, me sharing information about being psychic. And so tonight's episode is the physical body and intuition, I think is what we titled it. But what I'm really going to talk about is the physical body is a lens for you to focus your light through. And also, you are not the same as your physical body. Okay, so you are, I use the word spirit. If ever I'm writing, the spell check always goes, what are you talking about? You are spirit. Do you mean you are a spirit? So I've been sort of like, well, what's another word? And the only word I can come up with is consciousness. You are consciousness. You are an energy being of light, your spirit, your consciousness. You're not your body.
It's weird how the computer does that. I know spirit, it doesn't like, it's either the spirit or a spirit. It doesn't like calling it spirit.
That's right. So you are not your body. You are spirit. You are consciousness. And you have a body. You've created your body. Your body is your creation. It's your vessel. It's your vehicle for you to shine the light of consciousness, the light of spirit through. And we'll talk more about that. Why would you do that? Because a lot of people spend their whole lives wishing they weren't in a body and trying to be not in a body, don't they? But so let's talk about some of, and really that's based on a misconception. So let's start by talking about some of the differences between body and spirit, because they are not the same. So as I've explained, you are spirit, you are consciousness, and you have a body. As spirit, you are eternal. You are an eternal being. You never die. You just go on and on and on. Ever expanding, creating, and so on. But the body is finite. Bodies do die, right? There is a life, we live a lifetime in a body which is a finite quantity, but we have eternal life as spirit. So one is never ending and the other is finite. There is a beginning and an end to the body, but as spirit, you are the Alpha and Omega, you are the beginning and the end, and actually there is no end. It's just continuing on. Another difference between body and spirit is it's saying something similar but a bit different. As spirit, you're omnipotent. In the body, you are here and now. In the body, you're just right here, right now. The body can't be anywhere else but here and now, but as spirit, you can be here, there, and everywhere all at once. And therefore, as spirit, you are in the experience of oneness. In a body, you are in the experience of duality on opposites. As spirit, you are interconnected with all things. In a body, you are experiencing being separate, the illusion of being separate from everything. Spirit is multidimensional, interdimensional. Body is limited by time and space. Spirit, we might say, because it's omnipotent and multidimensional and all of that, we could think of it, it's galactic, it's intergalactic, it's universal, any of those words that we can think of. The body is earthly, it's on Earth, it's on this planet, unless you're one of the ones that gets on a one of Elon Musk's tickets to Mars. Your body is Earth-based, but a spirit, you have some focus here on Earth, but you have experiences beyond this planet, beyond this galaxy, beyond this universe, beyond this dimension. Another.
You could also be an alien.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I say multidimensional, I mean you create in all realities. And that could be other planets, other universes. It could be, it can be, and is other lifetimes. Now, another thing, if you think about being omnipotent, being unlimited by time and space, everything exists. All possibilities, all probabilities exist. And so there's no delay when you create. Your creation's already there. Okay, it sounds strange, doesn't it? But when you're in a body, there's kind of like a delay to you creating because there's time and space. And so you are able to make choices. And then as time and space progresses, the result of the choice that you made or the action that you took is reflected back at you. So there's this kind of mirroring or reflective quality to being in a body embedded in time and space, which you do not get if you are not in a body and unlimited by time and space. And I've already said this, but as spirit, there's the experience of togetherness, interconnectedness, whereas in a body, you're individuated, you're experiencing separation. Another difference between spirit and body, spirit is consciousness, body is physical matter. Okay, so one's like a tangible, touchable thing, and the other is kind of intangible. You can't touch spirit. As spirit, you are high frequency light. The body is a much lower, denser energy, electromagnetic energy. So there's a difference in frequency between them. As spirit, you are all knowing, all seeing, right? I'm starting to touch upon the intuition here. As spirit, you're all knowing, all seeing. But in a body, you have a more limited perception. You're not all seeing and all knowing when you're in a body. And when, as spirit, as consciousness, pure consciousness, you have an expanded perspective in comparison to the limited perspective that you have when you're operating through a body. And some other examples of differences between body and spirit is your body, it needs food, it needs exercise, it needs sleep, it needs all sorts of things. Spirit doesn't need any of those things, right? You don't eat, don't sleep, you don't exercise, you don't do any of those things that a body does. And there are some other things as well, which we might talk about in a future episode. And I would just say also, as spirit, everything exists. In the body, everything changes. Everything changes. Everything's changing all the time. It's spirit that has intuition, that has psychic abilities. Body has its intellect, emotion, animal drives. And yeah, I mean, I could go on, but go ahead.
It's interesting because I find when we try to do things in life, even spiritual things, we try to force it physically. And it just like psychic abilities, we try to force them physically, like it doesn't work.
Well, exactly, because spirit doesn't use effort. Body uses effort. That's another one of the differences. So, I mean, another way of trying to conceive of this is if you think about, I don't know why I'm thinking about a model railroad. You know, those hobbyists who have a model railroad in their attic and they've got all their whole thing. Well, in the body, you're riding on the train. You're riding on the train and you're seeing the local environment, right? So here and now, oh, look, there's a tree, there's a house, there's a lake, there's a mountain. You move through time and space. Spirit is more like a balloon floating above the landscape and looking down and seeing everything, every part of your journey, okay, where you are, where you were, where you're going, where the track is broken, where the track narrows, where the landscape's eroding and the danger of falling down the mountain, where there's going to be a tunnel, where there's a steep incline, where there's a big decline. Spirit sees the entire landscape, whereas you are not privy to everything. And what that means is you can surprise yourself. So you're constantly revealing new things to yourself. That wouldn't be a surprise if you didn't have a body, right? Because it would all be known to you. But in the body, you're constantly surprising yourself. You're learning new things all the time, new things about yourself, new things about the world. And you're making choices. Which train track, this one or that one? Well, spirit sees both train tracks. It sees both sets of creations. And spirit can have the experience of knowing both aspects of that fork in the road, actually. Whereas you have to choose one, because you can't do everything everywhere all at once. You can only do here and now. And so you choose a particular track, and then you don't know ahead of time, but eventually you see the reflection of that choice of going down that particular avenue. It shows up in your reality. Damn, I chose the wrong track. the track's blocked. There's been a landslide, you know, oh, wonderful, you know, I'm having a lovely time at looking at the view of the ocean. Okay, spirit can see both the ocean and the landslide because it's got a different perspective than you do. So I have some more to say on this, and I'm wondering whether to leave it to the second part of the show.
No, we still have a fair amount of time.
Do we? Okay. All right. So, I mean, another metaphor or another analogy that might help you perceive or conceive of these ideas is, it might help us understand why do we choose to be in a body? Why do we choose to incarnate? If we've got it all going on as spirit, why do we go into these things called bodies? And think about a looking glass, an eyeglass, a magnifying glass. I guess there's different names for it. It gives you a different perspective than without focusing through that. And it's more focused and it's more intense. It's magnified, but you see less. So if you focus light through a magnifying glass, that's a metaphor for you focusing your light, your energy through a body. It's more concentrated, it's more focused. I mean, just think how the sun might not necessarily start a fire on dry ground, but if you take a magnifying glass and focus the sunlight through it, then it intensifies that energy. So you're having a more intense experience, but you're seeing less because everything's magnified. It's all in your face, isn't it? If you ever try to read a newspaper with a magnifying glass, you know, without the magnifying glass, you see the newspaper, you see all the print, the fine print. But maybe it's a little bit fuzzy. Maybe you can't see everything, you know, you can see it's a newspaper and there's all these different stories. And if you take a magnifying glass, then now you're really focused in on just one part of the newspaper and you can see that blown up, magnified, intensified, but you can't see the rest of the newspaper. So there's a more specific, more focused experience through a body and a less specific, less focused experience outside of the body. So yes, you get to see the whole newspaper, but you don't perhaps get to see in the sharp relief that you get when you are in a body. So more on this when we get back after the break. Welcome back, listeners. You're tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley and Corey. And tonight we are talking about being in a body and
Yes,
the difference between body and spirit. And well, I guess we'll touch upon, you know, which one's the one that has the intuition. Before the break, I was using the metaphor of a looking glass or a magnifying glass to help us to get the idea of what the difference between body and spirit is, what the difference in the experience that you get when you're in a body versus existing as pure spirit. And we were saying, imagine a newspaper, right? You can see, if you are not using a magnifying glass, you can see the whole newspaper. If you're using a magnifying glass, then you can really zero in on one of the stories, but then you lose the rest of what's there. So being in a body gives you a much more focused experience, more intense, more magnified. And it's a different way to create. And because of that intensity, it allows for enormous growth to happen. So in a way, you can think of yourself on your journey in your body. It's kind of a hero's journey of self-discovery, where you're searching for meaning, you're seeking to express yourself. And self-discovery and things are revealed to you along the path, right? It's a journey of revelation and self-discovery. And because these parts of yourself are hidden. Or if you were creating purely as spirit, you wouldn't get the surprise. You'd know the result before you made the choice, before you even took a step on the journey. You'd already know the result. So it's a different way to create. It's a different way to experience things. But in a way, you're kind of doing it semi-blindfolded and sort of semi-handcuffed, because you've forgotten completely who you are, and you can't bring all that you are here. You can only bring a part of who you are. How can you bring in an infinite being into a finite vessel? You can't. And so you are experiencing, the one who's experiencing this lifetime, the one who's in this body, is an aspect of a greater being, is an aspect of a multidimensional, eternal being. And again, it's sort of, the human language is hard to express these things, but you are that being, and you are an aspect of that being. So you're here to start a fire, right? You are this magnified, intensified version of yourself with the power to create worlds being focused through a physical body. And so in a way, you can create in a way that you can't create outside of the body, in a more intensified way. So that's more or less what I wanted to say. I might add a little bit to say, so your body has lots of things. It has lots of ways of sensing things, and those are to help it navigate the physical environment that it's in. It's you, that bright spark of divine light, that is the one who has the psychic abilities, the one that has the spiritual senses that help you navigate through multidimensional space, through non-physical reality. Body can't do that. It wasn't built for that. It was built as a vessel, as a vehicle to transport you in the physical experience. And it does a great job of doing that. But it isn't the one that has the psychic abilities and the intuition. So I wonder whether any of our audience has any questions about what we've been talking about. And maybe for the rest of this, till the next ads, we can take questions that relate to what we're talking about. And then after the break, we can widen it up to any kind of question at all.
Okay. So this question is from Karen. Karen says, what did I choose to use my abilities for in this lifetime? These gifts are not fully developed and there are some blocks, but I would like to know which field of work to go into. Thanks.
Well, that gives me an opportunity, Karen, to talk about having your psychic ability blueprint done. Because it sounds like a simple question, but it's a big question. So did you know that there are 22 different psychic abilities? They're channeled through your chakra system. And the chakra system, we've been talking about the difference between body and spirit. One way of thinking about your chakras is kind of like a body-spirit interface. And so your information as spirit is flowing through to you, this version of you in this body. So you've got 7 major chakras and 22 psychic abilities being channeled through those chakras. And yes, sometimes those gifts get blocked. And it's because on this human journey that we're on, we encounter challenges. We go through trials and tribulations. And through the life experiences that we have, we don't always clear the trauma and the pain from our system. And we take on beliefs that are limiting beliefs that get in our way of the light that we are completely shining through that chakra system. And so, you're kind of like everybody else. Yeah, here I am. I've got these spiritual gifts. They're blocked. And I'm confused about why I'm here. If your spiritual gifts weren't blocked and you were accessing them, you wouldn't be confused about why you're here. So it's a bit chicken and egg, isn't it? So to develop our psychic abilities, we have to heal ourselves. We have to clear those blocks. And then, yes, that you have a unique profile of psychic abilities that relate to you and your life purpose. Because as spirit, you have all of these things, but now you've got this lifetime as Karen, and Karen has a particular purpose. So you will have your chakra system attuned to what it is that you're here to do. So I have a 90-minute session that addresses your question. And 90 minutes is usually not long enough to go through all of your psychic abilities and, what all the gifts are and where they might be blocked and why they might be blocked. And then we get this whole story around who you are and why you are here. And I wanted to explain that because on the radio show, we only have time for these really short little snippet looks. And so I could look at you and go, oh, well, I see that your main ability is blah, 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 and it's blocked because blah, blah, blah. But that is a fraction of the full story. It's just a fraction of the full story. There's so much bigger of an answer than that. So go to my website, drlesleyphillips.com, and look under readings for the Psychic Ability Blueprint and look at that, because you get a full report of your psychic abilities that you came into with this lifetime and 90 minutes with me. Now, with that preamble, I will take a look at your question, but I don't want you to go away with a little simple answer and think, well, that's it then, because it's just a little pinch of salt. All right, so let's have a look. And in that little snippet, I wouldn't tell you, well, your career is an airline pilot, right? I think it warrants a bit more time than that. But I'll look at your energy and I'll see what comes up. Forgive me, I have one of those lights, halo lights, and it's burned into my retina. So I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for that to sort of calm down a bit so I can properly look instead of seeing this ring of light. I'm just looking at your energy. Well, the first thing that's coming up is where a block or an imbalance is actually. And there's something that's showing up at the third chakra. So the third chakra relates to energy distribution throughout the system. And we're constantly shifting and changing our energy distribution, depending on what we're focused on. And it also relates to your out-of-body experience and your out-of-body memory, things like astral travel, lucid dreaming, things of that nature. And when I look at you, it's like if say, let's say you were a stem, it's like the stem is broken at the third chakra. That it's like you're leaning over at the third chakra. There's something going on in the third chakra, and also on a physical level that would relate to your digestive system and things like that. In that area of the body, in the middle solar plexus region. And the other thing I got the impression of was like an imbalance. We might say a lot of doing, more doing than being. So pushing forward, being busy, being active, you know, trying, like Corey was saying before, to force things to happen. And so it looks like you're actually not taking enough time to heal yourself, not taking enough time to sort of turn within and meditate and understand your inner world, and trying to be effective in the outer world without realizing that how you manifest is by having balance within that inner world. So I'm talking about energy distribution, and I'm talking about manifestation, and I'm talking about you really knowing yourself and knowing your energy. And I've not given you the answer, what are you here to do, except I kind of have. Because one of the things that you're here to do is balance your energy. Another of the things that you're here to do is know yourself, and then actualize yourself. And at the moment, you're not operating from the alignment of knowing who you are and creating from that position of knowing who you are. So you're trying to force things to happen. And what things are they? Because then they're not coming from, you know, I know who I am and why I'm here. And you're probably saying, oh yeah, well, that was my question, Dr. Lesley. I don't know who I am and why I'm here. But to get to that point of knowing who you are and why you're here is not as simple as somebody like me saying, well, it's this or it's that. It's about you healing yourself, developing yourself. And then you will have the alignment and energy and perspective to create the life that you want. So right now that there's an imbalance, and in a longer reading, I would tell you more, but the place that comes up with the biggest thing is the third chakra. All right, I think we will leave that one there.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lesley. I have a question before we go into another user question, a listener's question. I find it interesting more and more so that I deal with most of the people on the Facebook group and you know, in, you know, sending out your emails and things like that. And I find about 90% of the people that sign up say, I want to expand my psychic abilities. I want to work on my psychic abilities. I want to do this. But yet they never show up for anything. Why do you think that is, Dr. Lesley?
Well, that's a good question, and I will look at it, because that is true. I get people signing up on the wait list for courses, And then when they're invited to a free event to discuss the course, they don't go. And to go up to the point where you're like, yeah, I want to take this psychic development course, and then not follow up. So, well, let's have a look. Let's have a look at that general question. And one of the things comes up is just everyone has a busy life. And it's what I was just saying to Karen, actually. It's like, well, you've got to take the time and space to prioritize this. And so people just have busy lives. In fact, in Unlock Your Intuition, which is starting very soon in the next 1 to 2 weeks, the first module is to counteract this major issue. That's a major issue to developing your intuition, is life is too busy, because that causes people not to set the time aside to meditate. So I'm seeing one of the major reasons is busy life. And then connected with that is, it's like this McDonald's spirituality. You know, I want this and I want it now, instant gratification. So it's like signing up is the same as getting it, you know, ping, I'll click that, ping, I'll click that. And it's this social media, fast food way of being that our world has got into. So I think a lot of them are, it's not exactly signing up on a whim. It's not that they don't want it, but it's that, you know, it's like clicking like I've got that now, clicking like I've got that now, and collecting. It's like people collecting images on Instagram, you know, you might never look, or people taking millions of photographs on their cell phone. You might never look at that ever again, but you've got it, you've collected it. You've clicked. So that's, I'll see if there's anything else that comes up. But really, it's being busy, and how to, and you know, and prioritization. You have to prioritize this if you really want it, and if you really want it, you will prioritize it. And if you don't prioritize, you won't get it. And clicking is not going to get it. All right. So we'll be back after these messages. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Lesley. We are talking about intuition and the difference between body and spirit. And we've had a good 40 minutes chatting about that. So now we want to hear from you. What would you like to get an answer about today?
And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget, give us a like and the like. Next question. This is from SG. SG says, in order to take one of your chakra courses, would I have already had to take the Unlocking Your Intuition course?
Yes.
Okay.
And it starts, Unlock Your Intuition is starting shortly, either the 1st or 2nd week in October. And so if you are wanting to do that, then, you know, connect with me, write to me. It's a prerequisite for all my other courses. And all the other courses assume you know what's taught in Unlock Your Intuition. And Unlock Your Intuition gets you into these habits that we were just talking about before the break. Module 1, develop a regular meditation practice. Commit to meditate every day for 90 days. And really practice what you're learning in the course in those meditations. Okay, because we learn intuition by direct experience. And then it teaches you, and I really don't like to use the word foundational techniques, but I can't think of another word. So it teaches you foundational techniques, and I think that puts some people off because they're like, oh, well, I'm not a beginner. But let me tell you, there are many people who are out there who are teaching this stuff who don't even know the foundational techniques that are in Unlock Your Intuition. What is in Unlock Your Intuition that I'm calling foundational techniques are the ancient mystery teachings that were taught in the ancient mystery schools. And they are key to what we've been talking about today is you are spirit in a body. It teaches you the difference, and it helps you come in as spirit into the body and heal yourself. Be aware of what have you stored in the body that is not, the pain and the trauma and the different things that are not allowing you to be clear enough to access your intuition. And it also, those very same techniques are the techniques that allow you to start accessing your intuition and especially your clairvoyance in that course. And so these are all those things that are taught in that course. They're not like, oh, I know that and I'll move on from that. Everything we ever do in any of the courses, we are always doing those things first. So it's sort of like, well, you get in the car, you turn the engine on, you put your seatbelt on, you adjust the mirror, or a pilot gets into the plane, there's certain things that they do. That's what you learn in Unlock Your Intuition. Before you take off in your airplane, you've got to set the console up correctly. So the only time I've made exceptions to that is people who already have been doing an enormous amount of work on themselves and already know the techniques, okay? But otherwise, yeah, it's a prerequisite. Next
Wonderful.
question.
Thank you. Next question for you, Dr. Lesley. This is from Katie. Katie says, that's a great analogy. I'm not sure which one she was talking about. I've never thought of it that way. I remember you comparing body and spirit to the Mars rover, but this helps understand the function of the body as it relates to spirit. Does this mean that spirit does not create without a body?
No. Spirit still creates without a body. It's just having a body allows you to create in a very specific, focused way. So if you don't have a physical body, you can still create.
Okay, question from Brian. Brian says, when we go from one life to the next, since we move on from the body and the body returns to Earth, becomes a different form of energy, does it come with us into another life since it's not destroyed but changes form? I ask because I'm aware people can carry marks from incidents in their past lives into this one. An example would be someone was hit in the leg with an arrow in a past life and a mark appears in the same place on their body in this life.
So it's spirit that's creating the body, and it's spirit that's creating the mark as a I was going to say samskara. I don't know if that's the right word, but so the answer to that is, do the exact same molecules that make up this body make up all the bodies that you ever have? No. In fact, these are not the exact same molecules that you had a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Okay, so you're eating, you're taking in different things that are being metabolized by your body that are going to create your cells, and then you're defecating, right? So you've got this constant flow of energy and physical matter going through the body. The body is constantly changing, cells are dying, new cells are being born. And so it's not the same molecules that go to make each body. But as spirit is creating the body, spirit may bring through certain echoes from other lifetimes. When there is a theme being shared between those lifetimes and it is wanting to go deeply or continue from something that was being learned in another life. Hope that answers your question.
Me too. Okay, this is a question from Erica. Erica says, hello.
Hello.
If we had a planned purpose, yet forks of the road, do we end up going back to our path, or can we get too far off? How would one know? It's always your path.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and this is the conundrum or the paradox of when you're talking about body versus spirit. Because we're so logical in our human form. So we go, well, I've got a path, and a path is a linear thing, and you can take a wrong turn and get lost. And so you can have the illusion or the experience of that for sure. Can you read the question again, Corey?
I can. Would you like me to?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. If we had a planned purpose, yet forks in the road show up, do we end up going back to our path, or do we get too far off? How would one know?
Okay. So we have, give me a second. Something's happening here. I almost want you to read it out again. So, give me 1 second. I think somebody's in my head. Everybody, pull your energy back. It makes it harder to read if everyone is in your head. So, you are always where you are meant to be. And even when it seems like you're not on your path, in some sense, you are, because here you are and you have free will to make choices. And so you're always learning and you're always expanding, and there's always infinite, in a way, there's infinite choices that could be made at any point in the path. So in a way, your path is not necessarily linear. It's like you're existing here and now in a vast probability matrix, and you make a choice and that takes you on a leap to another position within the vast probability matrix, and so it goes. So your path isn't linear, even though we think of it that way. I'm going to answer it this way. I'm going to answer it in a slightly different way, which is to say, like we were saying, you are spirit, you have a body. And my thing that I always look for when I'm reading people is, are you in alignment with your higher being, or are you out of alignment with your higher being? Okay. And so your higher being has a particular energy frequency, and your higher being is the ultimate guide for you in you walking your path. So, but if you're out of alignment, you're not attuned to that. You're not listening to the signals, the messages, the guidance. And so you may not be making choices that are in alignment with your higher being. And you may be out of alignment because you've taken on somebody else's belief system. You may be out of alignment because you're in a lot of pain, and so you're not making choice, or you've got you're solely stuck in the body level reality. So you're not making your choices from the perspective of your higher guidance. You're making misguided choices because they're not coming from that alignment with your higher being. But regardless, all experiences are valid. And so it's not like you're making mistakes. You're still having experiences in physical reality that are giving you feedback and information on what happens as a result of the choice that you're making. And so you always have the potential to expand and learn from anything that you are doing. And so do we go back? Do we get too far off? Really just depends on the individual, really. We can go very, very far and deeply into darkness. But if we do that, and it seems like, oh, look at that wayward person, they are just so off their path. But if we go really far into that darkness, to balance that out, we have to equally go into the light. So at some point, that soul will rebalance, and there will be immense light as a result of the immense dark path that they went on. I hope that gives you some perspective. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Lesley.
You're welcome.
This is actually from Erica as well. So I don't know if spirit is guiding me to be a writer or something else, or if my own physical self is just getting in the way of understanding. Thank you. Did you want to comment on that, or?
I'm looking at it, Corey. It takes me a moment sometimes I don't always instantly dive in. I need to look at this one. I'm looking at the energy. That's why I'm not saying anything. Well, I mean, I'm seeing your energy as spirit. I'm seeing the you in the physical body, and I'm seeing the idea of writing. And it looks like that there is an urge, a desire to write. But there are also blocks to that flow of creative energy effortlessly flowing through. And oftentimes it's the intellect that is the problem. And one thing I've learned, and I share with other people who want to write, is to just disengage the intellect and write. And don't worry about, is it grammatically correct? Do I have the appropriate sentence structure and paragraphs and, this, that, and the other? Just get it out on the page, pure creative impulse, pure creative flow. And then once you've got it out, you can go back and do the intellectual thing. But if you keep the intellect there, it blocks it. That's why there are so many people who are in writing groups for years and years and years, and they're going around in their intellect and they're never publishing a book, because everyone's in their intellect and everyone's saying, oh, there's a right way to do this and there's all these rules to follow. And that is just extinguishes creativity. So that's piece of guidance number one. And it looks like you're also dealing with some invalidation, like, am I good enough? That kind of thing. And Unlock Your Intuition, we work on all of those kinds of blocks. We give you techniques to help you clear them. I'll show. So yeah, it looks like there's an impulse to write and there are some blocks. Well, it looks like that's all that we've got time for today.
Yes, it
everybody.
is.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all for
Dr.
those
Lesley.
who attended live. We enjoyed your company and your questions, and we will be back next week.
With psychic senses versus physical senses.
That's right.
That should
All
be
right.
exciting.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye to all, and to all a good night.